Republic of Vietnam, April 5th, 1967. 18 years old Lance Cpl James H. Stogner of Company C, 1st Battalion, 9th Marines, is advancing over a paddy field with his platoon towards a hedgerow before a village, wherein North Vietnamese Army troops are suspected to be lurking. Ominously, Stogner's battalion has the nickname The Walking Dead because of its unusually high casualty rate thus far in Vietnam. It's getting dark, so supporting artillery fire a few illuminating shells in order to give the small marine unit some visibility. Suddenly Stogner sees NVA soldiers before him and promptly shoots 3 dead with his M16. However, return fire hits Stogner's rifle, smacking him in the face and breaking his nose. Badly hurt, Stogner drops down, hugging the dirt as grenade and mortar rounds explode all around him. Most of his platoon are dead or wounded in the withering enemy fire. He brought a knife to a gunfight. NVA soldiers, about a battalion of them, begin advancing across the field, killing wounded Marines as they go. Stogner, unarmed now except for his issue K-bar knife, begins crawling in the dark towards his fellow Marines. He makes it to the hedgerow where he observes 4 NVA soldiers torturing his badly wounded machine gun team leader. Stogner, despite his own injuries, wastes no time in confronting the enemy and kills all 4 in hand-to-hand fighting with his issued Marine knife. Lance Cpl Stogner was considered for the Medal of Honor for this action, but would eventually be awarded the Navy Cross instead. So then, this is just one example where the venerable K-bar knife was used in action, from its inception during the Second World War to the present. It is and was widely adopted by the US military, thus the knife has a legendary status. Dissatisfaction. The story of the K-bar begins with the general dissatisfaction felt by Army soldiers and Marines at the lack of versatility in the Mark I trench knife. The Mark I was expensive to manufacture, and it was also difficult to carry as the guard made it troublesome to fit into the scabbard. More importantly, perhaps, was that the Mark I's thin blade was not reliable when used in a utility role, albeit a role it was not designed for, and would often snap at the tip. Finally, the War Department had identified the need for a multi-purpose knife with both a fighting function and a utility one, while still conserving metal resources. A more practical knife. The US Marine Corps issued a specification for a new combat knife in 1942. The US Navy Mark I utility knife and certain civilian knives such as Weston's L77 were highlighted as being useful starting points for the new knife design. In partnership with Union Cutlery, US Marine Corps Colonel John M. Davis and Major Howard E. America suggested several key changes, including a longer, stronger blade and a small fuller to lighten the blade, a peened pommel, which would later be replaced by pinned pommel, a steel crossguard, and a stacked leather handle. The knife used a thicker blade stock than that of the US Navy Mark I utility knife, using 1095 carbon steel, was 7 inches long and had a clip point. After extensive trials, the prototype was accepted. Controversially, the Marines quartermaster at the time initially refused to order the knives, but his decision was overruled, and the United States Marine Corps officially adopted the K-bar on November 23, 1942. Around 1 million would be produced during the war. Camillus Cutlery Company first produced the knife in January 1943. The US Navy in turn soon adopted the K-bar as the US Navy utility knife Mark II. In the Navy, the knife was used as a diving and utility knife from late 1943 onward, though the stacked leather handle did not perform well in saltwater. Unlike previous fighting knives, e.g. the Mark I trench knife, the Fairbairn Sykes, etc., the K-bar had the advantage of being designed as a dual-purpose knife, Due to its buoy shape and clip point, it was an effective combat knife and at the same time performed well as a utility tool, well suited to the type of jungle warfare encountered by Marines in the Pacific Theatre. This dual function resulted in some criticism of the K-bar as being less than ideal for knife fighting, but combat experience of returning veterans as well as reports from the battlefield quickly dispelled doubts about its combat effectiveness. Indeed, the knife has been in service with the United States military now for 80 years, and the basic design has stood the test of time, though there are better blade and handle materials around these days, reflecting the latest versions with different steels such as 1095 Crovan or D2 tool steel. Kill a bear. About the K-bar name, from Wikipedia. Union Cutlery Co. began using the name in 1923, having received a letter from a fur trapper who had used a knife to kill a wounded bear which attacked him when his rifle jammed. According to company records, the letter was only partially legible. K-bar could be read as fragments of the phrase, kill a bear. In 1923, the company adopted the name K-bar from the bear story as its trademark. The tale of Lance Cpl James H. Stogner's heroic fight with the NVA using only his K-bar is amazing. There must be many other stories though where Marines and other soldiers were forced to use their legendary knives in hand-to-hand combat. Do you know any instances? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching. For more interesting historical narratives like this, don't hesitate to subscribe.